The primary muscles of the middle and upper back are the latissimus dorsi and the rhomboids. These muscles have two basic functions. They pull the entire shoulder girdle back and to a lesser extent pull it down. Pullback exercises pull the entire shoulder girdle to the rear in opposition to the pectoral muscles, which attach the shoulders to the front. Pullback exercises are all rowing movements. The shoulders start from a position in which they're shrugged fully forward. The pectoral muscles are squeezed and the back muscles are stretched. Now pull backwards against the resistance until the shoulders are as far to the rear as possible. The shoulder blades are almost touching.
The primary muscles of the upper back are the latissimus dorsi, which extends, abducts, and rotates the arm medially, draws the shoulder downward and backward, and the rhomboideus major and minor, which draw the scapula medially toward the vertebral column.
Pull-down exercises, such as chins or cable pull-downs, involve a more limited motion. At the start of the movement, the shoulder girdle is lifted upwards as if you're trying to touch your shoulders to your ears. You then pull down against resistance as far as you can in a reverse shrug motion, fully contracting your back muscles. Pullback exercises account for about 2/3 of back development. Pull-down movements contribute about 1/3.
The weak link in back training is the biceps. The back is a large muscle, whereas the biceps are small. The amount of weight needed to build the back, the biceps cannot handle. So the key is to keep the arms out of the movement. You want to use the arms as hooks instead of using them to curl the weight. When rowing is done this way, the arms are only used to connect the weight to the body. They don't assist in actually lifting the weight. For the same reason, when you do a chin or a pull-down movement, you have to concentrate on doing most of the work with the lats, with the shoulders being pulled downward and the arms not bending much, but serving merely as hooks to connect you to the bar overhead. Another problem to avoid is too much involvement of the lower back. When you row or pull down, you should avoid cheating by pulling with the lower back and swaying to the rear, or else the primary muscles you're targeting in the exercises don't get enough work.
The basic movement in the lower back training is simple. You start from a bent over position and then you stand erect. You bend over to pick something up, then you stand up straight again. This lifting and straightening of the torso involves direct action of the spinal erectors. Since the normal function of the spinal erectors is to stabilize rather than work through a full range of motion, they are the slowest muscles in the body to recuperate fully from exercise. Therefore, they only need to be worked once a week. You can avoid overtraining the lower back by alternating light and heavy workouts. Incidentally, you'll find that the use of the lower back muscles occurs to some degree in a variety of other different movements.
Head-over rows are one of the best but most demanding mass builders for the back. You need to grasp the bar with a wide enough grip to make the lats do most of the work rather than the biceps. And be sure to drive the bar upwards to the lower abs, not to the chest. Otherwise, you have the same problem of involving too much biceps effort. Most bodybuilders do bent over rows with fairly heavy weight to build maximum mass, which makes it difficult to do the exercise without at least some cheating. This is acceptable if you're careful not to straighten up too much during the exercise and concentrate on squeezing the shoulders back as far as possible at the top of the movement. However, when you do bent over rows with somewhat lighter weights, it is possible to do this exercise a lot more strictly. But in either case, the essential things to remember are to lift and squeeze with the back, bringing the shoulders as far as possible to the rear, and try to keep any cheating involving the legs or lifting up with the lower back to a minimum. T-bar rows are a stricter form of bent over rowing. With this exercise, cheating is not recommended at all. Bend your knees, get yourself in as stable and grounded a position as possible, then pull the weight up toward your chest, shrugging your shoulders back as far as possible to squeeze the back muscles together. Then let the shoulders come forward again and feel the big muscles of the back extend and stretch to the maximum. Concentrate on keeping the weight under full control throughout the entire range of motion in this exercise. Again, concentration is the key. Use T-bar rowing to carve and sculpt the maximum detail possible into the muscles of the upper middle back.
The T-bar for me is the bread and butter. When you think of thickness, back thickness, you think of what exercise allows you to move the maximum amount of weight and the most comfortable way to move it. The T-bar is a close grip movement. You're bringing the weight, the upper back middle muscles are contracting maximally. There's no long stretch of the lat involved here, simply because you're concentrating on the upper middle. And that's the area of the back where a lot of activity can be developed in today's bodybuilders, which will give you that resemblance of Albert Beckles, for example, with that type of detail. You don't get that detail by doing one-arm rows. And a lot of young guys and professionals today are doing, sticking to the same regime. I like to now think that there's a little step to go beyond that, and you have to bring those secondary muscles into play. T-bar gives you mass and thickness, and that's what that section of my back training will always consist of.
Using one-arm rows, you can isolate each side of the upper back in turn. However, this exercise can be more difficult to do than it seems. For one thing, be sure to bring the dumbbell back toward your hip rather than up toward your chest and shoulder, which turns the movement into more of a curl than a back exercise. And when you lift, concentrate on the feeling of squeezing your back muscles together. Both sides, not just the side with which you're lifting. Otherwise, you'll tend to rotate your body as you lift rather than making the big back muscles do the work by themselves. For maximum stability, try leaning with your free arm on a bench, weight rack, or some other support to keep your body steady and fully grounded throughout the movement. Chins are probably the most traditional of all pull-down type back exercises. However, they can be very difficult because you are dealing with your entire body weight in this exercise, and women in particular have trouble starting out working against this much resistance. If chins are too tough for you at the beginning, try building up your strength with cable pull-downs, or have a workout partner hold on to your ankles to provide the lift you need to do your set of chins. If you have difficulty holding onto the bar during chins, wrist straps can be used to help strengthen and secure your grip. Chins can be done behind the neck, which is a very strict and demanding form of the exercise, or to the front, which is slightly easier since some of the pullback function of the back mixes in to help in the pull-down effort. Ideally, you should try to include both behind the neck and front chins in your various workouts for maximum back development.
The most impressive thing to me is when a bodybuilder is standing on stage in the relaxed pose and they have the V taper from the lats down to a small waist and then their small hips, and then they come out with the balloon thighs. So for me, when I train my back, I always envision what I want to look like on stage, and I really want to have that small waist, and to get that, I've got to have the illusion of a big wide back. So I concentrate a lot on doing wide grip chins,